was wondering about fairness. So I had a talk with Adam van Koeverden. He's an Olympic medalist and world champion kayaker. What does fairness look like in sports?
Well, fairness in sports is a lot like fairness in other parts of your life. I think fairness means that the rules are the same for everybody, and everybody has to follow them.
Is it fair to have everyone compete by the same rules?
That's a really important question, and it's actually come up a little bit right now in the news. Every athlete is different, and I think it's our differences that make us, special, unique, interesting. And what we're trying to do when we do sport is to see whose specialness is going to get them across the finish line first. So I think most athletes that win Olympic medals probably have some kind of advantage, and that's why we compete, to see whose advantage is going to get them across the finish line first. And when we start, deciding which characteristics are allowable advantages and which characteristics are disallowable advantages, that's where it gets a little bit tricky.
Can you give me another example of that?
Sure. I guess I can give you a personal example. I'm a pretty short athlete when it comes to kayaking. I'm 5'11.5", so I'm just under 6 feet, but most of the people that win medals in my sport are over 6 feet. They're also quite big and strong, and oftentimes they have really big lungs and everything. But I didn't have any of that. I'm a pretty average sized person, so I needed to figure out how to move my boat with regular sized muscles and regular sized lungs. And I did. I figured it out, and I got almost perfect technique, and I was able to pull my paddle through the water at really, really good angles, and I was always measuring those types of things. So I was able to win medals at the Olympics without all of the same characteristics, those advantageous characteristics as other athletes, but I found ones that I have. I'm a good problem solver, and I also recover really well, and that means that I can do more hard workouts in a week than my average peer. And so it's all about finding out how you have these tiny little advantages and then exploiting them, figuring out how you can make yourself better with those. So I use my problem solving skills and my recovery skills to get a little bit of an edge on my competition, whereas some guys got a little edge over me by having giant lungs or longer arms.
I don't really have long arms.
No, neither do I. Mine are normal. But they move my boat fast when I pull them in the right direction. Or they used to, at least. Not really anymore.
So like in gym class, for me, every time, even if our team wins, the other team usually calls out we're cheating just because we won and they lost. It's just bad sportsmanship. Has anyone in kayaking ever done that?
Sure, certainly. And you identified it. When you call the other team cheaters just for being better, then that's called bad sportsmanship. Sportsmanship is about being able to win gracefully, but also being able to lose gracefully.
Is it fair for women and men to compete together or against each other in sports?
I think so. I think sometimes. I think, sometimes I've done lots of 5K runs, for example, and I don't think I've been first out of the women, when we compete. There's lots of examples of when men and women can and should compete on equal playing grounds. And then there's a lot of sports where men and women can and should be on the same team, competing together on co-ed teams. I've played on lots of co-ed soccer teams. I think, the difference is if there's a danger and if it really is fair. We can see that on average, the best women in the world can run about 1.5 seconds slower than men over 100 meters. So would it be fair to be putting them into the same category? I don't know. That's a bigger conversation, I think the only real concern that I would have about adults and children and women and men and boys and girls playing on the same team is safety.
What do you do if things aren't fair in sports, like if somebody breaks the rules or cheats?
I guess the only solution then is to speak up, to use your voice, right? And to do it in a fair and civilized manner. I think it's important that we always have integrity. When we stand up for what we believe in, we use our voice and use respectful language.
Can a sport be, too fair?
Wow, that's a good question. I think so. If your goal is to make sure that everybody finishes the race at the exact same time, then I think that's too fair. I think sort of the point of a competition is to see who can be the best. We should be comfortable with that. There's winners and losers in sport. And I think if the goal is just to, make it so absolutely everybody finishes the race at the exact same time, that's less interesting.
Yay!
Yeah, everybody gets a gold.
Gold medals for everyone.
Yeah. But then what's the point of a gold medal?
Hmm.
You know? And I think this is where kind of sport and society differ. Because if we applied it to other things in life, not sport, so, you know, in how we pay people for work, then I think there's some interesting examples in the world where we should be doing things like that. But in sport, I think it's different. And I think we can be comfortable with sport being a little bit unfair sometimes, because the point of sport, and I won't say the point of recreation and stuff, but the point of competition is to see who the best is. The point of fairness is to make sure that everybody starts the race at the same time and has the same conditions. That's fairness. Fairness to an extreme sort of application would be that everybody finishes the race in the exact same time. And I think that would be going too far.
If you've been wondering too, subscribe for more big questions.